In today's video, I'm going to be checking out Cooper Flagg and how he shoots the basketball. He is a very good shooter and he is an absolute high school phenom right now down in the States. So let's get down, let's check him out. If you want to be able to shoot the basketball better and from further away, make sure to go check out the hardest basketball shooting workout down in the description below. Okay, so one thing that allows him to actually shoot the basketball faster is this right here. And that is, he gathers the ball with his left hand. His right hand is already in the gather spot, and he's already down into his shot, which allows him to just place that ball into his shooting hand and then go up into his shot. This way, he's actually able to shoot the basketball faster so that it's harder to block. The reason being is a lot of players, what will happen is when they gather the ball, they have to dip and then they have to go up into their shot. This allows the defender to get closer and crowd the shot. However, by gathering the ball with your left hand, placing it into your right and going straight up into your shot, check out the defender. He still has not got close to Cooper Flagg, which is absolutely fantastic. This is something that every single player needs to learn how to do. And then, when we're looking at his elbow, he's 90 degrees on his elbow, and on his shoulder, he's at roughly around 112 degrees. This allows him to have a very high set point, as we can see right here, well above his head, and this allows him to have that extra added distance or height to his shot, which makes it hard to block. Now, when Cooper Flagg releases that ball, what do we see? Well, we want to really look at the angle of his shoulder, and that's about 150 degrees, which is a really, really high release. Now, when we see the ball coming down onto the rim, this is the really interesting part. Now, that ball hits swish. However, if we do a rough analysis of the actual drop angle of the ball, it's actually not that high. Even though he has a high release, it's not that high of a drop down to the rim. It's actually below the limit that you would like. You actually want it to be somewhere in the 42 to 45 degree range, because if it's too low, the rim looks too small. If it's higher than 45, then there's too much gravity coming down onto the ball, and that will allow that ball to bounce out more likely if it hits the rim. However, too low of an angle, below 42 degrees, the rim will look smaller, which will allow the ball to bounce out. Within 42 to 45 degrees is perfect. Now, if we measure this angle right here, we can see that he is in that 45 roughly degree range, which is perfect. Now, we can also see that he has a one motion release and he has no thumb flick as well on that release. He has a soft release on his wrist, which will allow him to have more backwards rotation on that shot. And we can actually see that right here. When he goes for this shot, let's actually count the rotations of the ball. That's 1, that's 2, and about, I would say, maybe 2 1/4. You want to be roughly around 2.5 rotations to get to that rim. See, the reason why you want to have backwards rotation on the ball is if it hits the rim, it'll hit the rim softer, so if it does hit the rim, it can bounce around a little bit and then eventually go in. We can also see that his shoulder and elbow are in line with the rim, and the ball is over top of his upper arm, which creates that shooting triangle, which will allow him to have a straight shot. We can also see from this angle too that he has the middle finger and pointer finger on the ball when he releases, and we can see from here that he has a little bit of gap in that palm to ball, which is actually quite interesting because there's more and more shooters shooting with their palm right on the ball. Now, the difference is having a gap between the palm and the ball will allow you to have greater control of the ball, but if your palm is on the ball, you generally get a greater accuracy on your shots. So you have to kind of balance those two things out. He can also shoot with his left hand as well, which is quite interesting. When he goes up from his gather into his shot, we can see that he has a really bent elbow, but it doesn't bend on the way up. A lot of players will bend their elbow on the way up. You don't necessarily want to see that happen. You want to have that elbow locked from gather up into set point, because then you'll have less movement in your shot, and less movement will mean a more accurate shot. His offhand is actually quite high on the ball as well, which kind of makes sense because, of course, it's a high set point. However, it's a one motion shot all the way up. And while this may be considered a thumb flick because his thumb is still on the ball right there and his palm is kind of facing towards the rim, but not really at the same time, I would say this is not a thumb flick because, as we can see, the ball is still in his shooting hand while that thumb releases. Also, if we look at his feet, his right foot is in front of the left, which is what you want to see with a right-handed shooter. But interesting enough, his knees come together on this shot, and he doesn't have a ton of lower back either, almost like a Jokic-style shot. But we can see on this shot and many others that he does load his Achilles, which will allow him to get higher up into the air, and he does that by shooting on his toes, which is exactly what you want to see if you want to have a quick shot. I hope that these videos help you shoot the basketball better, and I hope this one gives you some tips that can help you as well. Anyways, hit that like button, subscribe, make sure to go check out my hardest basketball shooting workout down in the description below, and I'll see you guys again next time.